Right, Mark, thank you so much for making time to speak to us. We're having this conversation when MTN Rwanda has just put its half-year results. Just give us an inside look of the major highlights of the numbers as they look like, because there are those who are wondering, are the shareholders supposed to be smiling or, otherwise? Just kindly walk us through these numbers in terms of the highlights from it.
Thanks for having me. I think overall performance for the 6 months has been quite strong in terms of growth of our subscriber base. We've seen growth in the closing subscriber by end of June at 7.5 million, which was about 7.5% year-on-year growth. We saw a huge growth also in mobile money users. Crossed the 5 million mark, showing 15% year-on-year growth in terms of mobile money. And active data subscribers also grew slightly, not as big as mobile money. So on that front, we are really happy that we are able to grow and continue protecting our market share. In terms of the financials for the half year, we had a drop in earnings, and mainly due to several reasons. The first one being the shortfall on voice revenue. Voice revenue was largely affected by the regulator directive that was received in August 2023 to zero-rate interconnection, local interconnection, what we call the mobile termination rate. So we had a negative impact in terms of voice performance. We didn't get this revenue because obviously it's rated, but also the impact on the pricing from the competitive perspective had an aspect of value destruction, and we saw a 24% year-on-year drop in terms of voice revenue. But there's a cushion from the mobile money space. We saw mobile money revenues grow quite largely by 30% year-on-year growth. Data revenues stayed flat, and so the overall service revenue growth was just slightly under 1% year-on-year. So that was the negative part of it, and the zero rating of the mobile termination rate, or what we call the MTR, also on the flip side had a negative impact on the cost structure. So we saw high traffic from Rwanda to our permanent roamers in South Sudan and Uganda, where we have a large community of Rwandans. Because it's a one area network that is supposed to be zero-rated, we have a lot of traffic that is terminating to those countries without any revenue generated for MTN, but we are forced to pay a termination rate. So the costs on interconnection also increased largely. Yeah. So the loss on interconnection revenues and then the increase in the interconnection costs was a double whammy, and it really affected performance. We also had one soft cost for handsets. We partnered with stakeholders for Connect Rwanda. So we took in a subsidy that increased our cost of sales. The good thing is that we were able to see impressive growth in smartphones. Right. Smartphone penetration really increased impressively. Yeah,
we'll talk a bit about that. Maybe because that's just a lot of numbers to unpack. Yeah. And I want us just to try and make sense out of them. This drop that you mentioned, for someone watching right now, probably a shareholder, and someone who has invested in MTN, they would be wondering, so what is being done on this? Because the previous reports, significantly also highlighted this particular challenge. We are back to it at this particular results that we're talking about now. How then is MTN working to deal with those hindrances to cut down on these losses that you mentioned just right now?
Yeah, so we've been actively engaging with the regulator because when they instructed the zero rating in August last year, it was for a period of 1 year. And the period of 1 year, they had undertaken to carry out a study on MTR, interconnection, and we understand the process has begun. We have already expressed to the regulator in black and white, showing the numbers, the impact of the zero rating, the impact on our investment in the network, because our network is now carrying increased traffic. The zero rating triggered a lot of traffic from competition, which we have to carry. So we've invested in CapEx to cater for that huge surge in traffic. So they understand. They understand. They can see where we're coming from. They can see the numbers, and they're committed to reach a position that will be agreeable to all parties. Yeah. Because the zero rating is not sustainable, and on that front, we'll continue engaging with the regulator. The once-off costs that on the subsidy, that one was once-off, will not come back again. So we should start seeing normalization in the cost structure. We continue also dealing with operating expenditure, where we tend to incur more costs, dollar-denominated maintenance costs, transmission costs. We try to negotiate with vendors to change terms. So we'll be actively on that front, and we expect a turnaround in the second half of the year.
Right. How about the area of interconnectivity revenue loss that you also mentioned? What measures? I'm sure the shareholders will be having tough questions on that as well.
Yes, so it goes back to that MTR discussion with the regulator. We believe that our submission to the regulator and the ongoing study that they've carried out, or they're carrying out right now, should reverse the zero rating, because it's a loss for everybody, including government, in terms of collection of taxes, regulatory fees on our turnover. There's a big dip with the zero rating. So I think for us, we'll just continue to push so that it's reinstated as the study is ongoing, and we start bringing back the value in the market, because there's definitely been value destruction through the zero rating and the impact on overall pricing. So for the shareholder, we value the impact on voice revenues as a cause of the zero rating, and we know that the turnaround will improve the numbers going forward.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about now the positive, because we've also seen from the numbers there's been significant growth in the area of business enterprise, Momo. Yes. Let's just share a bit about what's driving this, and how do you plan to maintain these numbers? But also someone would be arguing and saying, I mean, that growth percentage, are you happy with it? Is this the best that could have come out of it?
Definitely, mobile money has been really growing very, very fast over the years, 30% year-on-year growth. And there's a lot of potential, because the total subscriber base of 7.5 million, we only have 5 million on mobile money. So there's still room to tap into that delta of 2 million subscribers. It's a way of life, and the tone comes right from the top. Government has really pushed the cashless agenda. They've put in place a conducive environment. I think the central bank is also in support of all the initiatives. So there's a lot of room for growth in mobile money. Advanced services, remittances, huge diaspora out there. So the mobile money space, it will definitely continue to grow, and we continue to look at that avenue. Enterprise, same room for growth. Homes growing everywhere in the country, connecting homes, connecting offices to fiber. A lot of potential there as well.
Now, if we're to try to convert these numbers that are in this report to the actual interpretation on what it means to the overall population, because most of the times when results are out, sometimes you just hear the profits, you hear we performed well, but how do you now tag that to the overall well-being of the communities that you serve. If they were to ask you such a question, so how does that concern me as a regular citizen? Maybe you can be able to also share with us in terms of the, sharing this success where there is success with the common citizen on the ground.
Yeah, I think for us, affordability is key for customers, and that's why we continue to offer different packages for different segments of the market. In terms of affordability, bundles, packages on data revenue, on data usage, voice bundles, and also being able to get a smartphone in the hands of the community through the Connect Rwanda. That for us is key, and we'll continue. Also, the investment in the network to increase on coverage. We know there are areas in the communities that don't have a network, so that is also key. Not only coverage in terms of the basic 2G, 3G, but also in terms of 4G, to get the community use 4G, and the benefits of using fast internet for entrepreneurship and doing business is crucial for us. So despite the first half of the year in terms of the dip in profitability, we believe those once-off costs will are out of the way. We believe that we should continue now containing the costs and continue increasing the subscriber base, increasing revenues, and bringing back value to the community. We also have, as a company, what we call MTN Foundation. We take 1% of our profits every year to reach out to the communities. And if you saw in the release, I think we were able to connect some communities with solar panels, build some infrastructure for schools. So there are a lot of things that we can do for the community, and we'll continue to do that going forward.
Right. Are there any, changes, or what's the impact structurally in terms of, the loss in revenue that has been reported in the areas where, things haven't looked good? Is there any impact in terms of your internal operational structures because of the revenue that was not able to be achieved? I've seen in some quarters where, when cuts happen, it has a trickle-down effect also in, your operations in terms of posterity measures and all that. Will there be any happening because of this?
Not in the near future, because we know what happened in the first half of the year. We know the issues that were behind the performance for the 6 months, especially those ones of costs. And we know that in the second half, we are going to continue working with the regulator on reinstating the MTR. So we believe the revenues will start moving towards the right direction. We'll continue to push the expense efficiency program that we've had for several years, and just be as productive as possible. We might try to slow down on recruitments and things like that, but in terms of the internal setup, we don't expect any shake-up. Yeah.
All right. Mark, thank you so much for making time.
You're welcome.
Asante sana.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Asante sana.